Joining me now is Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk. Charlie, I truly don't think I'm being hyperbolic. I don't think I'm exaggerating. I think that when you look at this objectively, what's been accomplished in the last 24 hours and over the first 120 days, there hasn't been a more consequential presidency. And in the last 24 hours, Charlie, that's happened despite doubts and pulls, not just from the expected left, but on the right as well, about what would be the definition of MAGA. And what we learned is it will be defined by President Trump, and that will be successful.
That's exactly right. And you're spot on, Will. I'll tell you, President Donald Trump, he demonstrated a masterclass these last couple of days. Think about it. No nukes for Iran, which is something he's been talking about for well over 20 years. But also he did it with no boots on the ground, no endless war, no U.S. troops being killed, no nation building. So President Trump was able to go through every single component of this. He didn't need multiple trillions of dollars and 2 decades of trying to change the hearts and minds of people on the ground. He did it by using diplomacy first and then strength where necessary. And then he wraps it all up with a quick peace deal, forcefully inserting himself and saying enough. We took out the nuclear program. This is not about regime change. This is not about a 12-year war. This is a 12-day war. We're on the side of civilization. We're on the side of Israel. In no way, shape, or form or capacity should we allow Iran to get a nuclear weapon. But President Donald Trump is only interested in nation building, one nation. That is the United States of America, pouring investment back into this country, securing the border, passing the big, beautiful bill. And J.D. Vance articulated it perfectly. This is the MAGA doctrine. You see, Will, we get trapped between a false binary of interventionism and isolationism. And I talked about this on your program a couple weeks ago as this war was just starting. President Donald Trump has defined a third way, which is you don't know where he's going to act and how he's going to do it. He might taunt regime change on Truth Social. He might say he's going to drop a big bomb. He's also very clear, though, that we are going to use American force where necessary, keeping our enemies on their toes, always unpredictable, but resolutely America first.
I think that's exactly right, Charlie. America First was never isolationist. It was never pacifist. It was also never interventionist. It was simply consequentialist. Correct. It's a strategy, one that requires a strong, competent, and wise leader who you trust will put the interest first of America. And I think that's what we've seen play out, again, against all odds and mountainous doubts over the last 24 hours. Still, Charlie, there are the doubters, and there are those on the left. So hang out just one moment, Charlie. I want to run through some of what we've heard over the past several days from the left. There was an attempt today to impeach Donald Trump. 128 Democrats joined in that effort to push back on impeachment against Donald Trump. Still, there are those like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez who say that President Trump illegally in the Middle East declared war. Watch.
He also said that it was a war, and I think that the President of the United States admitting that he unilaterally brought the United States into a war without congressional approval is a very grave public admission. It is illegal.
All right, Charlie and everyone watching at home, that did not go unnoticed by President Trump. He took to Truth Social. He said the following: stupid AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, one of the dumbest people in Congress, is now calling for my impeachment, despite the fact that the crooked and corrupt Democrats have already done that twice before. He went on to say, when we examine her test scores, we will find out that she is not qualified for office, but nevertheless far more qualified than Crockett, referencing Jasmine Crockett, who is a seriously IQ individual. Instead of her constant complaining, AOC should go back home to Queens. Not for nothing, AOC responded, also, I'm a Bronx girl. You should know that we can eat Queens boys for breakfast. Respectfully. Charlie, I come back to you on this because Jasmine Crockett said the power to declare war resides with her. It's her vote. So we can talk about some of the doubts on the right, the left. Honestly, Charlie, don't you think the lesson here is they've been totally neutered and inconsequential in one of the biggest foreign policy debates and victories in decades?
Yes, and they're just wrong. Really quickly, so there's a difference between making war and declaring war. A president is allowed to act decisively outside of our borders if there is a threat to United States security. And yes, Iran getting a nuclear weapon is a threat to the free world, to Western civilization, and to the United States. For example, when Thomas Jefferson intervened in Tripoli, even though the seas of Tripoli, we hear about that, That was no declaration of war. He was able to go after the Barbary Coast pirates without a declaration of war. And Professor Alan Dershowitz has said this best, which is if you go back to the last time Congress really had an entire posturing towards war back in World War II, that might never happen again. This is perfectly constitutional under the Wars Powers Act. But even separate to that, and your political point is spot on, Will. How could they be against what's going on? We have peace in the Middle East. The killing has stopped. The shooting has stopped. There's no nuclear weapon. The American people overwhelmingly support this, and this is the day they decide to impeach Donald Trump. What are they trying to impeach? Peace? They're trying to impeach that there's no nuclear weapon? I mean, it's such a political loser for them. It shows that they are pathologically determined to oppose Donald Trump no matter what he does. I mean, what are they going to say? No, we're going to overturn it, and we want the nuclear weapons to go back. It's outrageous, it's wrong, it's unpatriotic, and I take great exception what the Democrats are doing.
Anti-Trumpism, Charlie, has left them with only being now anti-peace. It's incredible. You'll find them waving Iranian flags on the streets of New York City. Charlie Kirk, always intelligent. Thank you so much, Charlie.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.